Tell you what I'm going to do with these doors, how I'm going to make them. This is 6mm MDF, and you may think that's a little thin for a door, but it will be very light, and we're going to do them like the shaker style. So these pieces here will reinforce it and make the door a little bit stronger, bringing it to a total of 12mm around the edges, with just the centre panel will remain the 6mm. So this one for the battery locker door, I just want to get a good square edge. That's that one there. Is 305 by 400. The others I'll probably have to cut off the sheet, but there are some offcuts of this around. I'll just use what I can. Now again, the thing with the door is it wants to be fairly square. In fact, it wants to be precisely square, because if it's not, it just won't sit in the frame properly, it won't open properly. This is fairly precise marking and cutting for these. 400, 400. Good. Now I'm just going to hand saw all of this stuff because it is very thin material, it cuts fairly well. And you can just keep an eye on the line as you go. Okay, so I haven't cut that. Now the thing is to just measure this top line. Get a line on that. Make that cut. Make another one the same for the bottom. Should be the same. Yes, it is. Couple for either side and glue them on. We're individual pieces. We just want to put a little bit of glue on them. And now I'm just going to put a couple of brads in there just to hold that in place while the glue sets. They're up a touch, I'll just knock them down with a hammer. And this one is going nice tight fit. Very tight fit. But that's good. Okay, that's going lined up with the sides. Excellent. So, a little bit more glue on there. A couple of more brads, although that one barely needs them. Side. Okay, that would be the battery locker door. Now obviously there's a few things that need to happen to this. I'll put a little bit of filler in here just to hide these joins. We will prime the exposed sides, then that's ready for painting. Okay, so the job here is to do the rest of these doors in exactly the same way. We'll leave that one there for now. We'll go back into the van, we'll measure up for I think the next one we want is the thing above the fridge. It's not going to be a drawer, just like a fascia. That's going to go on here. We do want a little gap between it and the top of the fridge, just for ventilation. So I'll go and measure the fridge again, make absolutely sure how tall that is, and then we'll get this panel cut. Okay, 394 by 11, there it is, fits very nicely. Now at this point I'm just going to get on with making these. It's the same procedure for all of them. We need another couple of doors here. We need the drawer fronts, the locker front, and I want a couple of doors for that back piece. Once I've done them all, I'll move on to the next stage, which will be dressing them up and painting them. So having made all them, there's a couple of things that we want to do with them. And the first one is, I'm just going to clean it up a little bit with a piece of sandpaper. It does tend to do this sort of thing on the back. You see that? This MDF, it sorts itself out very quickly. So, smoothing down anything which we don't want. As I say, I'll fill this these edges up with some of the primer to begin with, and then we'll give that a coat of the finishing paint. So I'm just going to clean all them up first on the backs and on the fronts. Those sanded up, I just thought I might go around with some filler, and anywhere that needs a little bit, these are not so bad, they're quite tight, some of them joints. But just, you know, any that do have a little discrepancy in them can be filled up at this point. Then we'll let all of this go off, sand them down, and give them a lick of paint. And so far as this goes in the van, This is again with the filler, a little bit more filler. There are these little screw holes, which is just a dab over there, and then that's going to sand back down, and they will be unnoticeable. Okay, that's all a lot better. I've got all the screw holes here filled up on this panel, on the internal panels. They'll just need a slight rub down tomorrow. I think I'll do that with a hoover in my hand as well though. We just don't want to get this white chalky dust all over the carpet. That's going to be quite difficult to get out. So a little bit of sandpaper and a hoover, that should do it. Back doing a bit of work on cabinets here. And what we've got is I've painted these doors and drawer fronts and things, and I've fixed this one in place on the battery locker. That's a little catch on the top, and there's a catch to fit on the bottom. That all fits well, and that's looking good. I've got this, which is just a fascia really above the fridge, but I've also put that on catches, so it will come off if it's necessary to get under there at any point. So moving right along, we're on to now the cupboard doors, and the type of hinges I'm putting on here are these 90-degree closing hinges. They've got like a little piston in, and they pull the door shut, which is very good. Now there's just a little bit of remedial work to do on this next one. It's a good fit at the bottom, but we're a little bit tight there. So I'm going to take that into the workshop. I'm just going to see if I can square it up on the edge sander, and then we'll fit that. Okay, so I've got the doors on and sort of shimmed up. I've got some little shims underneath just to stop it from keep it off the floor a little. And we've got a little distance mark there in between them, which again is just a piece of it's probably about 1.5mm cardboard. Now this hinge, if we can come over this way, is going to go there like that. I'm just going to measure the same distance from the top and bottom for each one, just for the sake of symmetry, and then we'll get these on. Okay, so we've got a top mark here. I think the best way to do these, place it on, and there's oblong holes and round holes. Now it's best to do the oblong holes first, so that you still have a little bit of adjustment if needed. I'm just going to mark them holes on the door and on the frame, like that. That should do it. Now we're going to take the door off and fit it to the door first, and then I'll fit it to the wall. Now to do this, I've got some 13mm screws, because our door is only 12mm thick and we don't want to be going through that. I've got a brad, got a small posi screwdriver. So we're going to line that up with the ovals which have been marked on it. I'm going to put a little brad mark in them, right in the centre. So as I say, we have a little bit of leeway should we need to adjust it one way or the other. Okay, that being done, same thing here. Put some brads in. We'll put a slightly longer screw through here. I'll put a 15mm one through there, because we do have the extra thickness of the cabinet sides. We've got these holes marked here. We've got the shim at the bottom. I'm just going to stand the door on that, and then this is going to go in there. The door's just a little bit off there. That's it. That's better. So, as I say, 15mm screw into both of these. See if it all fits. If it all works out good, then put the other screws in. If it needs adjustment, then we'll adjust it. That one on. Next one's on. A little bit of adjustment required. Is just catching a little bit on the top there, but we have got room to go over. So it's these two screws here. Loosen them off, push the door in, and then that should have it. That's better. That's better. It's still tight. We're a little bit proud there, so we also want to go back over on these hinges. But that's not looking too bad at all. So when I say we're proud, what I'm saying is it's a little bit of a gap here, but the other oblongs on the hinges on this panel can be pushed back over, and then that'll join flush with the front of the cabinet. Okay, so a little bit of fine adjustment, monkeying around and everything like that. Later, we're pretty good here. The doors open nicely, and they stay open when you, because of this type of hinge. As I say, they have a little bit of pull on them to pull them back into position. But I'll also put some catches on here as well at the top, just to make sure that these aren't going to fly open. Might put one at the bottom as well. Okay, that's the doors. We'll cover the catches later. Now the next thing to get on with here is the drawer fronts, and this again is a job of fairly accurate measuring. What I'm going to do, I'll tell you the way I'm going to do this. I'm going to put a batten, not this heavy, but I'm going to put a batten along the front of the drawer like this and at the sides, and then I'm going to screw this way through into the drawer front, and also we'll put catches on each of these. Although the drawers are quite tight in themselves, they do have like a bit of a stop at the back. Once they're in, they tend to stay there. So we're just going to make sure that these fronts are very much in line and smooth and everything first. A little discrepancy in that one. And then I may cut a little piece of this in half on the band, so I'll cut it down the middle this way and use that as the battens to secure the drawer front. Okay, so this first one is what I would call a snug fit. I can get it in, but it is a little bit tight. So I'm going to take a mil off each side of that on the edge sander. I'll do the same with any of these if they need it. Yeah, I think they're all going to need that. It's probably just a paint build-up. I think that will affect that. That one's pretty much okay, but still, for the sake of keeping it all the same, we'll take a couple of mil just down the side of each of these, touch them up with the paint again later when we come to paint these in, which obviously will be the same colour as the cabinets. This is this colour is, what did they call it? Salisbury stone, I think they called it, Salisbury stones. But I think it's a very good match to a lot of the colours which are on the floor and the exposed grain in these panels. So I think once this is all tied together aesthetically, it should be very nice. We're going to have a beechwood worktop on here, so we'll have the dark wood contrasted with this lighter wood, then contrasted again with the floor. I think aesthetics are important in building a van. There's the layout, obviously, there's the design of it all, and there's the functionality of it, but there's also aesthetics. Must be taken into account, I think. I had a mood board up for a while whilst doing this, with some of the cloth on, some of the panels, a little bit of the floor, just to get the right sort of colour, and I think this has worked. I think this has worked out really well. As I say, another point with this is I've got some dark, like tan handles to put on here, and I think they'll just pop it as well. So I'm looking forward to see how this thing turns out. I think it'll be very nice, actually. But for now, on with the drawers. We're going to, as I say, we'll take a little bit of this off. We'll take the drawers out, square them all up, and attach them to the fronts. So we have these lines that were put on in the van, and the idea is they were in line with the bottom of the ply, the inside of the ply. So we're going to line them back up like that, and then if we're equidistant with the runners on either side, we should be able to put a holding screw in there, square it up and test it. If it's all good, we'll take it back to pieces, glue it and screw it permanently. Alrighty, so that's our first one in place, and that's looking okay to me. A little bit over there, maybe minor adjustment, something on the back. Good. The draw's good, it opens full width, plenty of space in there. That's all looking good. So, drawer number 2 is going to sit just there. So let's get on with that and sort that drawer out. Once the drawers are done, we'll have the hatch to consider and this panel. We're really held up with this panel. I'm waiting for one of these spirals for the tambour door, and I've been waiting a long time for it. So this job is really held up because of that. Today the worktop arrived. Well, it didn't arrive, I went and picked it up. This is it here. 3 meters long. bit weighty to carry into the workshop by myself, so I'm going to cut it to length, a little bit over, obviously, just in case. I'm going to cut it to length, make it a little bit more manageable. Now, out of this worktop, I think I'm going to get the worktop itself on top of the cabinets. I'll get the top of the battery box, and if we're very lucky, we should have enough left for a table also. Be quite a weighty table, but it should be nice. It'll match the worktop. So I'm going to measure that up and see if I can get the circular saw attached to it and cut it to length. Accurate measurement first. Now, as you can see here, I've gotten the rest of these cabinet doors on, and I've put them all on catches. They seem fairly secure. But first, it's a matter of measuring exactly what we want, cutting off this worktop. As I say, it's going from the tall cabinet there at that end, and I want an overhang of 1.5 centimeters. So that would tell me that the overall thing wants to be cut at 174 centimeters. Now I'm going to check this other side. Absolutely sure 174 would be correct, so I'm going to cut that at 176. So we've got a little bit of leeway if we need a little bit of scribing or anything. 176 centimeters. So 176 down the length of the worktop. Okay, now doing this as a single-handed operation, this is the best I've got so far. We've got it cantilevered on here. This piece will fall when I finish the cut, but it's going to fall onto that insulation so as not to damage it. And I think this piece here is balanced that way, so we'll be okay. But this is just heavy material, and it's best to take some precautions, I think. So we have the saw set up. There's just a little over one mark, so happy with that. I'm going to take that off. That worked out well. So the next thing to do is get this into the workshop, and using the scribe that we made the other day, see if we can cut it all to shape. Excellent. Get the hat on. Put this back in the van. I've cut it to the exact length at this point, and I just want to make sure before we start marking it out that it is aligned properly. And that's good there. That's just hitting there. It's just hitting the middle. And it's just hitting that end. If anything, that. Right, and I've got that pushed up as far as we can get it that way. So at this point, I think we're ready to put our cardboard template on here and take our scribe. Now again, let me try to show you what I'm doing here. I've got the cardboard template and I've got that pushed up in place here. Nice fit here. We need to add a bit here, we know this. This is all fitting around here quite nicely and it's good up there. So I'm going to take that and I'll pull it this way, keeping it parallel. Then I'm going to scribe it. So that being done, we'll have a cutting line on the worktop. I'm going to whip that off. Then we can push it in, see if it fits. It may need a little bit of rasping, sanding, stuff like this, just because I want a nice fit along there. And then we'll be on to the next phase of it. So after quite a bit of nibbling and scribing and rasping, cutting, etc., we've got the worktop to fit. And I think it looks absolutely stunning in there. That's spot on. That's going to darken down a little with the lacquer on it. I've also got the battery box cut in, and there's enough of this left to make a small table which will go across this way. So, all the sawdust in here. This is all off the rasping. There was a few things to do with this actually. The back of it, the back of the van is sort of this shape. So the underside of this, on the other side, has had to be rasped so it fits snugly in there. But I think it does fit snugly at this point, and that's all looking good. So I'm going to cut the wood for the table, And then I'm going to clean this up, clean up the saw cuts and the rasping marks with some with a sander, and I'm going to give that a coat of lacquer just to seal it. Obviously there's another cut out to happen here for the hob and sink, but that's not going to be today because we don't have the template yet. Waiting for so many things, but it's okay, this will all work out. I like that. I think that looks really good. So to decide on the width of the table, obviously it's going to go this height. We'll put a rail on here, a sliding rail, so we can slide it back and forwards, and just a width for it. Oh, it could be 90. It could be 90. That might make it a little bit tight getting in and out. It could be 85 then. Let's go 85. I think 85 is sufficient. And the width of it, don't know about that. 50, 45. I think that's wide enough there. 45 by, let's say 85 to there, to here. 45 by 85 for the table. Okay, so with these three pieces cut, the worktop, the battery box and the table, the next thing I'm going to do is just give them a sand up around the edges, take any saw marks off with this edge palm sander. It's got a fairly stiff grit on, it's got a 60 grit paper on it, I think. To take the major marks off, then I'll probably go over it with a 120. And then I'm going to give these a coat of lacquer. I know I haven't cut the hole out for the hob yet, as I say, waiting for the template. But I'll give it a coat of lacquer anyhow, just a first coat. This will just raise the grain and allow me to sand it back down. That first coat has just darkened that down a little bit. Nice sort of honey colour to it. All the edges are nicely sorted out. And we're going to leave that overnight to dry. So that's the majority of the cabinet work completed now. We still await the spiral to do the tambour door to finish off the tall cupboard. I think I'll do a full episode on making the tambour door. I'm going to make it from scratch and we'll see how that turns out. In the very next video we're going to be cutting a hole in the worktop to put the hob in, hob and sink, and we'll plumb that in, get it wired up and see how that's working. And at that point we're getting fairly close to completion with this van. So if you'd like to see how it all turns out, do subscribe to the channel. If you've enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, and thank you very much for watching.